Hello, it's Amy with Paper Moon Journals, and welcome to week 2 of the Trick or Treat Treasure Team collab. This week I decided to do a quad fold folio using Steampunk Spells. The clearance stuff came the day that I got the invitation and information on the collaboration, and I was so excited I skipped to the week 2 project first and made a sample and made these instructions as best I could. We'll have to make quite a few changes along the way because I had added gussets later and then didn't update the instructions at all and hadn't noticed until I sat down to film the video. So the basic measurements are okay, but the score lines change, and then as a result some of the decoration pieces needed adjusting for size because now after adding gussets to like the flap up, I think, or anyways, just things changed after the original design. So here's our sample project, our inspiration piece. I like to call it the template. I used some paper flowers, some flat backs, some faux crystal stickers. I used up all of the sticker border trim in my sticker set. So in the project that we'll make together, I won't have any of those, and I'll just use Dresden trim. You could use lace, rickrack. You could just not trim it out with the border strips. I do love how those border stickers look. It almost might be nice if they sold a sticker set just of those, but maybe I'm the only one who would want it. So here I've layered up on this photo mat some images, and I have in the instructions exactly how to make it. When we make the second one, I had used up a couple of the things in this project and wasn't able to make a set, exactly the same. So I did change a couple of the background pages because I'd used up both of the sheets. I used up too much of the floral paper in the first project, and then I didn't have enough left to use as much of it in this project as I did in the first one. There was one other substitution for pages, but anyways, so it flips out to the right, and we had a journaling card there, and then there's a tuck spot. I actually layered a sticker and some cardstock to create the tuck spot there. There we go. And you can tuck a photo under there or glue your photo down. And then here's the journaling card / photo mat. You can write on the one side and then mat your picture on the other. A 3x4 photo would fit on there. A 2x3 would fit. I always crop my photos down to just what I want in the frame. Speaking of what I want in the frame, so since it's a quad fold, it folds out to the right and out to the left. So this is the left side of it. And we have this cut apart. And then this photo mat has a pocket on it, a side opening pocket, and a diagonal pocket itself. It's this center image there of the girl on the bicycle. That was my second one, and then I didn't have a third one to make in our project we made together. But that's, it's mostly the same. I only used half of most of the things. So I made that side tuck pocket there on the flap up, and that actually flaps up again and has a pocket here. And we make a photo mat and tuck a couple pieces, a couple cut aparts in there. This is the first time I think I've gone through both the construction of making something and step-by-step decorating it to be exactly like the one I've made. So I hope that you like this. It was a new thing. It took a lot of foresight, and it was fun planning it out. And then we have a side tuck pocket there. And I matted the backs of those to make them nice and firm, sturdy, to go in the pockets. And then it folds back up, and we need a Velcro closure on this because there's like left and right pull on it, and a magnet would just slide open. Okay, so here we are. We're ready to construct it. I hope you'll stay with me for constructing it now that we've taken a good look at what the project is. I hope you're excited and dying to make one. And then I'll just make adjustments on the paper as we go. So I'm using Steampunk Spells. As of the time of filming, it's on clearance at graphic45. I had some that I bought at full price that I hoarded and hadn't used, and then once it was on sale, I'm finally able to use it. So I've got my sheet of cardstock here. We just need to cut this in half. And we'll be gluing it end to end so that we have a really long piece. If this looks difficult or complicated, it's really not. And if you just sit there with the written instructions and your cardstock and your pieces, you'll be fine, I'm sure. Especially with the video here guiding you along. I just checked the glue and it was clear, and then it sat there doing nothing and got clogged. I'm not sure how that happens. Ghost glue climbed up the spout or something to dry in there. Okay, so I just get it about 1/4 of an inch away from the edge and then burnish that down and clean off the glue. Better than your finger is actually a damp cloth. A dry wet wipe is favored by many people. My finger is so much easier to clean and creates no waste. It does create dirty fingers. By the end of the video, my fingers will look gross and filthy, and I'm asking you to forgive me in advance now. So we get this piece, a really long piece, almost 24 inches long, onto our scoring board, and you'll notice that it's not long enough, so we'll have to stop and move it at one point. But we start by scoring it at 1 3/4, 6 7/8, 7 1/8, and then once we get it to 7 1/8, we have to move it back to the beginning because it's too long. And so I just move it back to the 0 mark, and then now that I'm not starting too close, I can actually use that little flap to hold it in place. And then after you've folded it and moved it, you then score at 5 3/8, 5 5/8. And I think I make a mistake here that once it's decorated, you'll never know. But I think I start scoring it in the wrong spot. But it's 5 3/8, 5 5/8, 11 1/8, 11 3/8. I'll also have the measurements up on screen. I'll pop those up during editing. And then I'll have the PDF available in my Etsy shop for just a few dollars. It's available to screenshot and everything, but it's just easier if you can just print it out on cardstock, two-sided, as many times as every time you want to make one, you just print out another copy. If you don't remember how, go back to this video. I love that for this. I'm so excited to be included in this collaboration. I tried to come up with something I thought was worthy. Every time I thought of a project, I thought, oh, that's not good enough. That's not good enough. That's why my first week's submission had so many projects, because I just feared each project in itself wasn't good enough or wasn't enough. And then so I did 3 different things and then thought, okay, we'll make it a scrap busting project and we'll share all 3. Hopefully that's good enough. And here's one that I made where again I had made changes, adding gussets to the original, and I tried following my original written instructions. It's scored in the wrong place, several different places, but I'll still be able to use this, and once it's decorated, nobody will even see that it was ever scored in the wrong place. Many places. I mean, all throughout this thing has been scored in the wrong place. That craft seems sturdier than the other heavy-duty cardstock as well. All the craft paper, for whatever reason, seems to be a lot stiffer and more sturdy. So now that we have our score lines in, we can start folding and scoring. This 1 3/4 inch section is a pocket on the end. Then burnish that down, hold it for just a few seconds to get that to hold. I have art glitter glue in my dispenser. And then these are gussets, just to make it so that we have room to put stuff in here. And it'll still be nice and flat and attractive little bundle. I'm just carefully working each of the seams with my bone folding tool. You could use the end of your scissors. I've used a pen. The bottom of my glue stick. I've used that quite a bit for burnishing. The lid is a more rounded edge of the glue stick. With the lid on, you just turn it around. I had a highlighter pen that was on my desk that I was using at one point. So this is, as I scored it, I just kind of folded it in. We have a flap that folds in from the right-hand side with the pocket, and a flap that folds in from the left-hand side. It's not really that complicated, the base, right? See? It's not scary. I don't know if you watch it through first and then do the project. I do that. So, let's go back to the instructions, and it looks like we need to cut more paper. We need a 5.5 inch by 12 inch piece and a 2 by 3.25 inch piece. And then once we get those pieces cut, we'll need to score them. That first piece is going to be our flap up piece, and then this smaller piece is our closure, and I want that glue to set and everything, so I'm thinking we'll just make the closure first. We just fold it in half. It was 2 inches wide, and we fold it in half and glue it shut. And for this, actually, you want the wet glue. I do use glue stick for a lot of things, but I also don't wait for it to set. So since I'm not waiting for it to set, I do end up having to come back with wet glue at some point later. When I'm pulling on the Velcro closure, you know, it splits it apart a little. Since I didn't let it dry. So the wet glue sets and dries much faster, and then, so I fixed that. So in hindsight, I would just have glued that shut with the wet glue. Even if it warps a little bit, I find that happens more with the wet glue than with the glue stick. It's another reason I prefer glue stick. If you were with me for the week 1 projects, then you'll be familiar with that. And I end up adding an extra pocket to this project than with some of the ephemera than what the instructions say as a result of missing that one piece. So I used one of the tags from the first week too in that pocket. It was pre-made and it perfectly fit in the pocket. Because when I make things with the tag top punch, I like to make pockets to fit those things. So then, it worked great. And then next week's going to be a junk journal. And so I haven't decided what I'm doing for that. I have to finish getting this filmed and ready and everything, and then I can worry about the week after, week 3 project. Because I need to be at least a week ahead of you guys. And for me to feel comfortable, I like to be, 2 or 3 weeks ahead. Okay, so I scored this at 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch, 6.5 inch. And 6 3/4 inch. And what this does is it creates a small gusseted flap to attach into our folio. And then as it flaps up, those are all gusseted. This is one of the changes that I made that requires changing all the measurements later, is this flap up did not used to be gusseted, and the pocket and everything got so full. I still want room for people to add photos to this. So it could get even fatter if people use it. So there was that wrong score line that I made on accident. I'm just gonna work it out a little bit, smooth it out, and once it's decorated, I totally forgot that even happened until I was editing. So, there's that. It comes out great. Because it opens to the right and the left. So I find where this mechanism is going to go, get it all closed up the way I need it, and make sure that it fits nicely. It's going to work right. And then I want to open everything up and burnish it down in place. Just looking at it from the back as well to make sure it's on there straight. A lot of times when you turn things around and look at it from the back, you'll be able to see whether it's on there. I'm just going to score it. You don't really want to do this. Don't do that yourself. I just wanted you to see kind of where the closure was. It gets covered up when I decorate it. No big deal. I should maybe have a no big deal counter. I hope I'm not saying that too much. And then in the first one, I used a bigger piece of Velcro. That's probably better than these smaller dots. At the time, I thought I didn't need the bigger Velcro, but both work. Both are fine. I don't know why whenever I make something, I always think, oh, maybe I should have this, maybe I should have that. I'm just getting a little piece of plastic backing on the clear half so I can keep it paired together, but I'm not ready to place that down yet until that's decorated. That's going to be the outside of our cover right there. This is coming right along. The base construction of this is, I think, pretty simple. Again, it's a matter of following the instructions. I have to. I made one myself, and I still have to sit down and look at all the instructions and score lines to make another one again. That's how I got into doing the tutorials and selling the PDFs in my shop, since I felt like I had to type it up myself anyway. Now that I've gone to all the trouble and energy to do all the measurements and instructions and figure it all out, maybe share that with some other people. I love folios. I think it's a great way to add value if you like selling your journals, is to include a folio in there. They make great gifts. So especially if it's a big journal gift set or something, I would include a nice big folio like this as with the journal to try to just help it make it both more desirable, and again, I want it to feel like it's worth the money. Everything's so expensive nowadays, the cost of living and whatnot, and the cost of making the journals, so I just want to try to make them as worth the money as I can by throwing a bunch of stuff in there and then making it great if I can. So that's just a scrap piece. I'm going to throw that to one side, and we're moving forward. We're ready to start cutting our pockets. We need a 5-inch square to make the diagonal pockets, and then 2 6 by 2.5 pieces that we're going to score a 1/2 inch on 3 sides. I lost the footage of me scoring the pockets, but I just scored it on 3 sides, 2 short sides and 1 long side. And then, so this will just cut to me mitering the corners, which is where you just cut across, exactly diagonally across where they create a cross from scoring. And do that on all the pieces. And then we'll get our project out and we'll put them in the project. I can't quite remember where they're supposed to go, so we'll get out the original project and look and see what we did. Looks like a project goes there. So a diagonal pocket goes just inside the left. You just open it once. And then this rectangular pocket goes on the right-hand side. So we'll get those glued down. You use double-sided tape or whatever you prefer. And then I realize there's where one of my measurements has gotten off from adding the gussets. So I just rip it up. I eyeballed cutting 1/8 of an inch off and then remark it and change the instructions for the pocket size. So the pocket size originally wasn't quite the right size. I just have the corrected one in front of me now. And 6 by 2.5 inch is the correct size. It must have been slightly longer, like 6.5 or something like that before. But now we start with a 6-inch piece with all the extra gussets that I, again, added after creating the instructions. I improved it later and then forgot. But that's fine. This happens. When I'm filming the videos is often my first try on making these, and then I'll sit down before I offer it available for sale. I'll sit down and I'll make another one. That one that I started that had where I started scoring it wrong, the craft colored one. I'll sit down and I'll make another one, maybe using different papers or whatever, but checking all of the cuts and everything. I'll make another one on the craft, probably using some other paper. And then just double check all my measures and everything before I list it for sale, hoping that there's no mistakes in it. But I am human, so here's where I'm realizing, uh-oh, I put it in the wrong spot. I left this footage in here because I was just saying, we're human and we make mistakes, and like that's just part of being human. It's, I think, to not want to make mistakes, to ask to be inhuman. So, you know, there's that. So anyway, so I'm like, oh boy, do I want to just decorate it differently and leave the flap in this spot? Well, if I wasn't trying to show you how to make one like the one I made, that's exactly what I do. I just leave it there. And this project would be slightly different than the original. And then we come back to when people ask me to repeat things and they come out slightly different. This is why. So I think I can rip it up, but no, it's on there good. It does not want to come up. So this thing is sharp. It's sharp like a knife, this paper cutter. So I'm going to use this paper cutter to saw through, remove it, and then we'll just put a little band-aid where the damage is and everything. I left this in here because I thought this might be really helpful for somebody. And again, if you're afraid to do it because you think, oh no, I might make mistakes. So what? So what if you make a mistake? It's just paper and glue, right? If the worst thing that happened is the base of this got totally destroyed and unusable, just get out another sheet of cardstock, cut it in half, glue it end to end, and score it again. Take me just a few minutes to get right back to where we were. But it's fine, actually. It's totally fine. My confidence level when things go wrong with paper projects is pretty high. I wish it was that high when things went wrong in the rest of my life. Okay, so at first I think maybe I'll just repair the edge of that. If I'm making a junk journal, that distressing is kind of nice. But here again, I'm trying to teach you how to do it, so I think, yep, we're going to get a scrap, and we'll just use a scrap to create a little band-aid piece. Just a little unblemished piece we'll cut just to cover up the edge of the paper there. Once it's decorated, only at most 1/4 inch is going to show on the edge of the paper. So I'll just cut a little 1/2 inch or inch long piece. One of my scraps was already cut to the right size. And then I'm just going to line it, looks like maybe about 1 inch. I'm going to glue that on. The same thing if you're making, I did not want to flip that over and get glue all over. I'm not perfect. So like if they look pretty, the projects look pretty good when they're done, but things don't always go great. You won't see all that glue there. It'll dry clear and then it'll be decorated on top. I just need it to get dry enough that I don't glue this shut. Let's see, we have our other diagonal pocket goes inside the far left flap when it's all the way flapped open. Flapping. Then we put our diagonal pocket on there. I'm thirsty. You'd think I wasn't doing the voiceover, but crafting is thirsty work. I think I had to go refill my glue. So welcome back. I'm running out of glue. Literally, I'm running out of glue. Amazon delayed my new glue order, and I thought I might run out of glue before I finished this project, but I have a custom order I need to get in the mail, and I was just realizing I'm going to be in big trouble. My glue is not supposed to come until Wednesday now. It's Monday, and I don't know how I'm going to do that project without glue. I'm going to use, as little glue as possible, and then I'm pretty stingy with my double-sided tape, things like that, so I'll lean into my double-sided tape supply. But I'm a bit nervous, I'll be honest. Okay, so this one also, because again, I changed measurements later. This is that 1/8 of an inch too long. I actually just, when I eyeball it, trim more off than I probably should. And, but who cares, as long as the pocket isn't too big for the flap. Then I go back and score it a 1/2 inch again, now that I've trimmed it. So I have some extra steps in here that you won't have, because I'm still a little bit, or not a little bit, I'm refining my instructions that I wrote. Like a battle plan. Or they say no plan stands action. This is our action. Anyways, I think it might be a better left-right facing pocket since it's a flap up. But what we do is we make the journaling card that fits in there so snug that even though it's upside down, it doesn't fall out. What I do is I make it, the measurement makes it slightly too big for the pocket, and we trim a hair off of either side until finally it fits snugly into that pocket. At least this is what we do in the video later. We need to do the photo mats. The photo mats are still part of constructing the base and not part of the decorating. That's how I have the instructions broken down into materials, tools, base construction, which includes the pockets and photo mats, and then it moves on to the decoration, and the decoration is then further broken down into sections so that as I kind of work as I go, and that way it's easy for me to find my place on the instructions. When I get to decorating pockets, I just move down under decoration to where it says pockets, and off I go. So the last thing that we need to make as part of the base construction is our photo mats. We need 2 4 3/4 by 4 1/2 for the diagonal pockets, and I cut these from heavy duty black cardstock, and then optional use my fancy corner rounder to round the corners, and then we need 3 4 by 5 cards to go in all of the little rectangular pockets that we have. You could actually cut 4 of these because we need another 4 by 5 later. When we're decorating the center back. It's harder to keep track of it. If you cut it now, then it's harder to keep track of it, which is why I like to cut as I go. If I just have a stack of pieces, then I have to organize and label the pieces. It's easier just to cut a few pieces, just like we're doing here. This is the way I do it. I brought you along with me. Especially if you're a beginner, I think these things are really helpful. Which way I orient it on the cutter might be interesting. You know that I cut it 5 inches first and then cut it down to 4 inches. I think these photo mats, I'm confident, is another area where I had to change the measurements. The original measurement was not 4 3/4 by 4 1/2. I don't know what it is, but it was quite a bit narrower and it didn't work. And so the revised photo mat for the diagonal pockets. I think what I do is these ones that I miscut, I use for something else later. It asks for something slightly bigger, and I'm like, good enough. You know, they're pre-cut, they're the right size. They already had the corners rounded. They were good to go. So the last thing that we're going to do today is to use the corner rounder to round the corners for our photo mats, and we have all of our base pieces constructed and ready to decorate, and I'm going to go ahead and move that to a part 2. My computer just won't let me edit any video that's much longer than this. So every once in a while I'll get lucky and it'll work okay, but I'm not taking any chances. It's getting a little sketchy on the editing now. It's skipping and not quite keeping up when I'm trying to do the voiceover. So we're gonna end this video here with the corners rounded, and again, keep in mind that there's some revisions to these instructions later, like these two end up not big enough, but we do end up using them later, so I don't let anything like that get by me. I'm really excited to be part of the collaboration with the Project 39 mini albums and all of the other channels. I hope you'll check out the playlist and see what everybody else is doing. I was thinking that these little pieces look kind of like bats to me when they're bent in half, and was thinking that that could be a decoration option. Again, I don't want to keep track of them, so I just put them in my paper recycling ultimately. But yeah, I hope you'll check out the second half of this project. We're not going to wait for next week. It'll just be part 1 and part 2, and they'll go up within minutes of each other on my YouTube channel. If you really enjoyed this project and you like tutorials or you like looking at flip throughs for some inspiration, I hope you'll think about subscribing and maybe sharing my channel with anybody else you think might enjoy the content. As always, thank you so much for watching, and please have a wonderful day.